The forgotten giant. In the cold, distant reaches of space, a small survey ship floated aimlessly through the void. On board, Sergeant Tom Reed stared out the viewport at the barren landscape of Zorth, a forsaken planet that had once been the pride of the Galactic Coalition. Now it was nothing more than a graveyard of memories, where echoes of a forgotten past lingered among the ruins. Tom had come here on a routine salvage mission, but as he stepped off his rusted ship and felt the gritty soil beneath his boots, he sensed that something far more significant awaited him. Zorth had been a bustling outpost, a strategic point in the galaxy's turbulent history, where humans and aliens had once collaborated to fend off threats from the cosmos. Now, the only company Tom had was the wind, which whispered through the shattered remains of the structures that dotted the horizon. Despite the desolation, something primal called to him from deeper within the planet's wild heart, stirring a sense of unease that he couldn't shake off. As he trekked further from the ship, the signs of something unnatural began to emerge. Deep tracks carved into the earth, crushed trees, and shattered rocks hinted at a recent presence. Something massive had roamed this land. Tom's instincts, honed from years of military training, kicked in, warning him of danger. He crouched low, peering through the underbrush, and his breath caught in his throat when he finally laid eyes on the source of his apprehension. There, atop a crumbling mesa, stood the King Kong of Zorth, a colossal gorilla whose silhouette loomed like a living mountain against the fading sunlight. The creature was an ancient relic, once revered as a weapon of unimaginable power in the galactic conflicts. But now it was a shadow of its former self, covered in coarse, matted fur, with patches of skin exposed and marred by scars. It seemed broken, its mighty stature reduced to a slumped position, releasing a mournful sound that echoed through the valley, a sound that spoke of deep sorrow and abandonment. Tom felt a surge of empathy wash over him. This was not just a monster. It was a creature in pain, left to suffer alone after being discarded by those who had once relied on its strength. Memories of soldiers discarded after wars flooded his mind, and a determination ignited within him. He couldn't just walk away. He had to help this beast. "Sergeant Reed, have you secured the salvage sites?" Crackled his radio, jolting him back to reality. The voice of his commanding officer was firm, but Tom hesitated. The mission had been clear: retrieve materials and report back. But here, in this moment, everything felt different. He glanced back at his ship, the mission's purpose weighing heavily on him, and then he turned back to the gorilla, its weary eyes meeting his. "Negative," he replied, his voice steady but resolute. "I found something worth investigating." He clicked off the radio, shutting out the demands of duty and choosing to follow his heart instead. As he approached the creature, he moved cautiously, each step taken with care. He had no idea how the gorilla would react. Would it see him as a threat? Or worse, a remnant of those who had once used it as a weapon? With each footfall, he felt the tension build, yet something compelled him forward. When he was just a few feet away, he stopped, taking in the sight of the once mighty being. Its fur was matted with dirt, and the scars on its body told stories of battles long forgotten. "I'm not here to hurt you," Tom whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm here to help." The gorilla's massive fists clenched into the earth, its posture wary but lacking aggression. As Tom edged closer, he noticed the wariness in the creature's gaze, a deep exhaustion that resonated with his own experience as a soldier. With a deep breath, Tom reached into his pack and retrieved a small ration bar. It was a meager offering, but it was all he had. He gently tossed it toward the gorilla, who sniffed at it with curiosity before snatching it up with surprising delicacy for such a large creature. It devoured the bar in a single gulp, and Tom couldn't help but smile. "Guess you were hungry, huh?" As the gorilla began to accept Tom's presence, he felt a bond forming between them. It was an unspoken connection, rooted in shared pain and understanding. Tom knelt beside the creature, looking into its golden eyes. What he saw there was not the mindless rage of a beast, but the flicker of intelligence and recognition. This was no ordinary animal. This was a sentient being, one that had endured suffering beyond comprehension. "I'm going to get you out of here," Tom said softly, determination fueling his words. "We're not leaving you behind." The gorilla rumbled softly in response, and Tom sensed a flicker of gratitude in its gaze. For the first time since landing on Zorth, he felt a sense of purpose beyond mere survival. He had a mission now, one that transcended the mundane objectives of his orders. Over the following days, Tom made Zorth his temporary home. Each day, he returned to Titan, as he had named the gorilla, bringing whatever rations he could spare. The bond between them grew stronger, nurtured by shared moments of silence and companionship. Tom found himself mesmerized by Titan's presence, watching the rise and fall of its massive chest as it breathed, the weight of its burdens evident in every sigh. Despite Titan's fearsome reputation, Tom realized that its aggression was a response to years of mistreatment and neglect. It had been used as a weapon, a living tool in the hands of the Coalition, and now it was left to wither in solitude. Tom's heart ached for the creature, understanding that they both bore scars from battles fought, one against external enemies, the other against the brutality of abandonment. But the days of quiet were numbered. Tom knew he couldn't stay on Zorth forever. He had a duty to return to base, but he couldn't fathom leaving Titan behind. The gorilla had been left to die once, and he refused to let it happen again. His thoughts turned to how he could possibly save Titan. He needed a transport ship capable of carrying such a massive creature, and a safe haven where it could live free from fear and exploitation. One night, as he scribbled plans in the dirt, a sudden sense of foreboding gripped him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something dangerous. Just as he finished his thoughts, the distant hum of engines cut through the stillness of the night. Tom's heart raced as he turned to see a sleek black ship descending from the sky. Instinctively, he crouched low, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. This ship didn't bear the Coalition's markings, it was something else entirely. As the vessel landed, a group of heavily armed men disembarked. Their armor gleamed ominously in the moonlight, and Tom's stomach sank. Traffickers, the worst kind of opportunists, hunting rare and exotic creatures to sell to the highest bidder. They were merciless and greedy. Tom's pulse quickened as he realized that they had come for Titan. They had heard whispers of the abandoned war beast, and now they were here to claim it as their prize. He had no time to waste. Tom gathered his gear, checking his weapons and formulating a plan. He couldn't let them capture Titan, not after everything the creature had endured. But he was just one man against a dozen well-armed traffickers. He had to be smart. As the traffickers began their search, Tom stealthily made his way back to Titan's mesa. The gorilla was resting, seemingly oblivious to the impending danger. Tom crouched beside Titan, placing a reassuring hand on its thick fur. "We've got trouble," he whispered. "They're coming for you, but I'm not going to let them take you." Titan's golden eyes flickered open, and in that moment, an understanding passed between them. They were both facing a threat far greater than either had anticipated. Tom quickly scouted the area, searching for ways to use the terrain to his advantage. The natural rock formations of the mesa could provide cover, but it wouldn't hold against a full-on assault for long. In that critical moment, he grabbed his communicator and activated a distress beacon, one that would take hours to reach the nearest outpost. It wasn't much. It was his only hope for backup. For now, he would have to hold off the traffickers on his own. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and Tom's grip on his rifle tightened as he positioned himself behind a large boulder. He could see the traffickers spreading out, their weapons drawn and scanning the area. The first of them reached the base of the mesa, unaware of the danger lurking just a few feet away. With steady hands, Tom took aim, determined to protect the creature that had become his friend. This was more than just a mission now. It was a fight for survival against those who would exploit the vulnerable, a fight for the forgotten giant who had once been revered as a warrior. In that moment, as the shadows of his enemies closed in, Tom Reed knew he was ready to do whatever it took to save Titan. The gathering storm. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon of Zorth, the air grew thick with tension. Tom Reed crouched behind a boulder, heart racing, as the traffickers moved with precision and purpose, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of the legendary King Kong gorilla. He could hear their voices, low and menacing, as they exchanged murmurs about their prized catch. Tom clenched his jaw, every instinct in his body screaming that he had to protect Titan at all costs. "Remember, we need it alive," one of the traffickers barked, his voice cutting through the stillness like a knife. "But it doesn't have to be pretty. If it fights back, take it down. We'll sell the beast regardless." The words sent a chill down Tom's spine. He knew that these men viewed Titan as nothing more than a commodity, a trophy to be exploited and discarded once they had extracted all its value. Tom's mind raced as he formulated a plan. He couldn't afford to be reckless. The odds were stacked against him, and any mistake could mean disaster for both him and Titan. But he also knew he couldn't just sit idly by. With each passing second, the traffickers grew closer to discovering the gorilla's hiding place. He had to act before it was too late. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. "I have to create a diversion," he thought, scanning the area for anything that could help. His eyes landed on a stack of old machinery half buried in the dirt, a remnant from Zorth's past, rusted and forgotten. If he could use it to draw the traffickers away from Titan, it might buy them the time they desperately needed. Tom moved quickly, slipping from behind the boulder and making his way toward the debris. He was careful to stay low, using the shadows to his advantage. As he approached the rusted machinery, he felt a mixture of fear and determination bubbling within him. This was a dangerous game he was playing, but there was no turning back now. With a swift motion, Tom began to kick at the machinery, sending clanks and climbs reverberating through the air. The sounds echoed like an alarm, drawing the attention of the traffickers. He saw their heads snap in his direction, eyes narrowing as they realized that someone or something was nearby. "Over there!" one of them shouted, pointing toward Tom's position. "Move out, we've got company." Adrenaline surged through Tom's veins as he turned and sprinted back toward the mesa, heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the traffickers shouting to one another as they broke into a run, eager to close the gap. "Stay close, Titan," he whispered urgently as he reached the gorilla, who was still resting against the rock formation. Titan lifted its massive head, eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and concern. Tom's heart sank at the sight of his friend's wariness, but he knew they didn't have time for hesitation. "Follow me," Tom urged, gesturing for Titan to move. The gorilla struggled to rise, its large frame shifting slowly as it seemed to sense the danger. Tom's mind raced with thoughts of what would happen if they were captured. He had to find a way to get Titan out of this mess. As the traffickers drew closer, Tom led Titan deeper into the rocky terrain, navigating through narrow crevices and hidden paths. They moved in silence, the only sound being the crunch of dirt beneath their feet and the distant shouts of the traffickers growing fainter as they pursued the sound of the diversion. Eventually, Tom stopped to catch his breath, pressing his back against the cool rock. Titan stood beside him, massive and imposing, yet somehow gentle in its presence. Tom looked up at the creature, sensing its confusion and fear. "I'm here," he said softly, placing a hand on Titan's leg. "We're going to get through this together." But just as they paused to regroup, a crackle of voices echoed through the air, bringing a sense of urgency crashing back. "They must have gone this way," shouted one of the traffickers. Tom's heart sank. They were closing in again, and he had to think fast. He glanced around, searching for a way to conceal Titan's massive form. In the distance, he spotted an overhang, a large rock formation that could provide cover. "This way," Tom urged, leading Titan toward the shelter. They ducked beneath the rocky ledge, and Tom motioned for Titan to stay low. The gorilla complied, its immense size almost fitting into the shadows. As they huddled beneath the overhang, Tom could hear the traffickers drawing nearer, their voices growing louder and more frantic. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to calm his racing heart. "Stay quiet," he whispered to Titan, who seemed to sense the urgency of the situation. The traffickers arrived at the base of the mesa, their flashlights sweeping over the ground, searching for any signs of movement. Tom's breath hitched in his throat as he held his breath, willing himself to remain silent. The sound of heavy boots thudded against the dirt, sending tremors of anxiety through him. "I swear I heard something," one of the men said, his voice tinged with frustration. "Let's split up. We can't let this beast get away." With that, they began to fan out, splitting their numbers as they combed the area. Tom felt a wave of panic wash over him. If they discovered Titan, it would be all over. He risked a glance out from the overhang, and what he saw filled him with dread. One of the traffickers was moving closer, methodically scanning the area with his flashlight, inching ever nearer to their hiding spot. Tom's pulse quickened. He had to do something, anything to distract him. "Think, Tom, think," he muttered under his breath. In a moment of inspiration, he recalled the small explosives he carried as part of his equipment. They were meant for demolishing old structures, but in this case, they could serve a different purpose. With shaking hands, he reached into his pack and retrieved one of the devices, carefully preparing to toss it away from their location. "Here goes nothing," he thought, steeling himself for the act. Tom pulled the pin and threw the explosive with all his might, sending it sailing into the distance. It landed with a thud, and within seconds, it erupted in a loud bang, sending dirt and debris flying into the air. The traffickers turned instantly, their attention drawn to the explosion. "What the hell was that?" one of them yelled, charging toward the sound. Tom seized the moment, feeling Titan's eyes on him, trusting and alert. "Now's our chance," he urged, moving quickly from the overhang. "Follow me." They slipped out of their hiding spot, navigating through the rocky terrain with newfound urgency. Titan moved cautiously, still wary but increasingly aware that Tom was fighting for their freedom. They darted through the maze of rocks, Tom's mind racing as he searched for a route that would lead them away from the traffickers. The sounds of their frantic shouts echoed in the distance, but Tom pressed on, leading Titan away from danger. He knew they had to find a place to regroup and formulate a plan. They couldn't keep running forever. After what felt like hours of navigating the rocky landscape, they stumbled upon a hidden cave, the entrance obscured by thick foliage and overgrown plants. "This should keep us hidden for now," Tom said, breathless as he ducked inside. Titan followed, his massive form causing the ground to tremble slightly as he entered. Inside the cave, darkness enveloped them, providing a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Tom leaned against the cool rock wall, trying to calm his racing heart. "We're safe for the moment," he assured Titan, who stood just inside the entrance, its golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. As they settled into the cave's shelter, Tom allowed himself a moment to catch his breath. He knew they had to think strategically. The traffickers would not give up easily, and it was only a matter of time before they resumed their search. But for the first time since he had arrived on Zorth, Tom felt a sense of hope mingled with determination. "I can't leave you behind," he said, looking into Titan's eyes. "I promise, I'll find a way to get you out of here." Titan rumbled softly, the sound resonating through the cave. It was a sound of understanding, a bond forged in the fires of adversity. As the echoes of the outside world faded away, Tom took a moment to reflect. He thought about the countless lives lost during the war and the creatures like Titan that had been caught in the crossfire. Humanity had been so quick to wield power and then abandon it when it was no longer useful. But here, in this cave, Tom made a vow, not just to Titan, but to himself. He would not let the mistakes of the past dictate the future. With renewed resolve, Tom began to devise a plan. They needed to create a distraction, something that would draw the traffickers far away from their current location. He rummaged through his gear, gathering supplies and formulating ideas, determined to leverage the environment to their advantage. "First, we need to set a trap," he explained to Titan, who seemed to listen intently. If we can lead them into the canyon on the other side of the mesa, we might be able to outmaneuver them. Tom outlined the plan, explaining how they would use the rocky landscape to funnel the traffickers into a confined space. Titan watched him, and for a moment, Tom could almost see the flicker of understanding in the gorilla's eyes. They were partners in this fight, two beings from different worlds united by a common goal: survival. With the plan in place, Tom took a deep breath and steeled himself for what lay ahead. "We have to move fast," he urged Titan. "Let's get ready." As they prepared to leave the safety of the cave, Tom felt a sense of camaraderie blossoming between them, a bond that transcended the barriers of species. Together, they stepped back into the fading light of Zorth, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The traffickers may have underestimated them, but Tom and Titan were ready to prove that they were a force to be reckoned with. The forgotten giant and the soldier who refused to abandon him were about to turn the tide in a battle for freedom, and nothing would stand in their way. The heart of the canyon. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape of Zorth, Tom Reed and Titan moved cautiously toward the canyon. The atmosphere was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves or crunch of gravel sounding like a battle cry in the stillness. Tom's heart raced, not just from the adrenaline of their recent escape, but from the weight of responsibility he felt toward the creature beside him. Titan was more than a legendary beast. He was a friend, a survivor, and together they were bound by a shared struggle for freedom. "We need to find a good vantage point," Tom whispered, glancing back at Titan, whose massive form seemed to blend into the shadows of the canyon. The gorilla, though large, moved with a surprising grace, its muscles rippling beneath the coarse fur as it navigated the uneven terrain. There was a certain majesty about Titan, a remnant of the strength and power he once commanded. But that power had been exploited, and now it lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. As they approached the canyon's edge, Tom crouched low, peering over the rocky ledge. The view was breathtaking yet haunting. Below, the canyon opened up like a gaping maw, its walls rising steeply on either side, creating a natural amphitheater. The sun had just set, and the sky was a deep indigo, speckled with stars that twinkled like distant worlds waiting to be explored. "This is it," Tom said, a sense of purpose igniting within him. "If we can lure the traffickers into the canyon, we can trap them." He felt a surge of hope as he turned to Titan, who was watching him intently, golden eyes glimmering in the twilight. "But we need to be careful. We can't let them get too close." With a plan forming in his mind, Tom quickly set to work. He scouted the canyon's perimeter, looking for natural features that could be used to create obstacles and distractions. There were loose rocks and fallen debris scattered about, remnants of erosion that could be repurposed as makeshift barriers. He pointed out several key locations to Titan, illustrating how they could work together to manipulate the terrain to their advantage. "See that outcropping?" Tom said, gesturing to a large rock formation jutting out from the canyon wall. "If we can get some boulders to roll down from there, it'll block the path behind us and funnel them toward the center of the canyon." Titan rumbled softly, tilting its head as if considering the plan. The gorilla had an innate understanding of strategy, a survivor's instinct that Tom was beginning to appreciate more with each passing moment. After laying out the plan, Tom gathered the necessary materials, searching for boulders and loose rocks that could be dislodged. Titan helped, using its immense strength to move larger obstacles, while Tom set smaller stones in strategic places to create barriers. They worked swiftly, the sense of urgency pushing them forward. With every stone they positioned, Tom felt their chances of success solidifying. "All right," he finally said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "This should do it. Now, we just need to create a distraction to draw them in." He looked back at Titan, whose expression was one of focus and determination. "We'll need to split up for a bit. I'll head back toward the cave to make some noise, and you stay here. When they start coming in, you'll wait for my signal." Titan nodded slightly, a gesture that spoke volumes. It was a partnership forged in trust, and Tom felt a swell of gratitude. "I won't let you down, Titan," he promised, his voice firm. "We'll get through this together." With a final look at Titan, Tom set off toward the cave, moving swiftly yet quietly, aware that every sound could alert the traffickers. The moon hung high in the sky now, casting a silvery glow over the landscape. As he approached the entrance of the cave, he could see the faint silhouettes of the traffickers searching the area, their flashlights bobbing in the darkness like fireflies in the night. "Time to create some chaos," he muttered to himself, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. He quickly scoured the cave for anything that could be used as a distraction: old crates, loose rocks, anything that could create a loud noise. His eyes landed on a stack of old metal parts, rusted and battered from years of neglect. With a plan forming in his mind, Tom began to toss the metal parts around, creating a clattering sound that echoed ominously within the cave. He kicked them further into the depths, generating as much noise as he could. "Hey, over here," he shouted, his voice ringing out into the night. "You want the beast? Come and get it." The traffickers' heads snapped in his direction, their shouts rising in volume as they raced toward the cave. "There he is. Move," one of them barked, urgency lacing his tone. Tom's heart pounded in his chest, but he held his ground, knowing that his act would buy Titan the time they needed. "Just a little closer," he whispered, peering into the darkness of the cave. He could hear the traffickers scrambling, their footsteps growing louder as they rushed toward him. "Come on, you greedy fools," he muttered under his breath. "You're walking right into my trap." As the first of the traffickers burst into the cave, Tom seized the moment. He took a deep breath and tossed one of the metal parts further into the shadows, the sound crashing against the walls and reverberating through the cave. The traffickers jumped at the noise, glancing at each other in confusion. "Did you hear that?" one of them said, looking around nervously. "It came from over there." They moved further into the cave, following the sound. Tom felt a rush of triumph. They were falling right into his hands. Outside, Titan waited in the shadows of the canyon, poised and ready. Tom had instructed the gorilla to remain hidden until he signaled. He could only hope that Titan would have the patience to wait for the right moment. As the traffickers spread out, searching the cave, Tom prepared to execute the next part of his plan. He glanced toward the entrance, where the shadows danced ominously. The time was drawing near. He needed to signal Titan before it was too late. With a deep breath, Tom moved quietly toward the back of the cave, readying himself to create another diversion. He knew that if he could dislodge a few more rocks, it would further direct the traffickers' attention away from Titan. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, reaching for the loose stones that littered the ground. Just then, a shout rang out from one of the traffickers. "This way, he's trying to escape." Tom's heart sank as they began to close in on him. "I need to move," he thought, adrenaline surging through his veins. In a swift motion, he kicked a boulder, sending it tumbling down the slope toward the traffickers. The sound of the rock crashing against the cave floor echoed like thunder, causing the men to turn in alarm. Tom seized the moment to dart toward the entrance, calling out for Titan as he ran. "Now, Titan, now!" Outside, Titan sprang into action, its massive form emerging from the shadows with a primal roar that resonated through the canyon. The sound was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a call to arms that echoed in the hearts of the traffickers. They stumbled backward, shock and fear flashing across their faces as they saw the legendary beast standing before them. "Get it," one of the traffickers shouted, raising his weapon in panic. "Take it down," but it was too late. Titan charged forward, its powerful limbs propelling it with incredible speed. Tom watched in awe as the gorilla leaped into action, fearlessly confronting the men who sought to capture it. Tom could see the chaos unfolding, and he quickly moved to position himself behind a large rock formation, ready to assist Titan. "You've got this, buddy," he shouted, feeling a surge of adrenaline as he prepared to join the fight. Titan's massive fists swung with surprising grace, deflecting the blows aimed at it while also creating a barrier between Tom and the traffickers. The gorilla was not only defending itself, but also protecting Tom from the onslaught. Tom felt a rush of gratitude for the creature's instinct to shield him, even in the midst of chaos. "Stay close," Tom said, scanning the area for any signs of danger. They moved cautiously through the rubble, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. Tom felt a pang of loss for the lives that had once thrived here, and for the creatures, like Titan, that had been caught in the crossfire of conflict. As they explored the ruins, Tom searched for anything that could be useful: food supplies, medical kits, or weapons that might help them defend against future threats. "We can't leave any stone unturned," he muttered, rummaging through a collapsed storage room filled with debris. To his surprise, he found an old first aid kit, battered but intact. "Yes," he exclaimed, holding it up triumphantly. "This could be just what we need." He quickly opened the kit, assessing its contents. There were bandages, antiseptics, and some basic medical supplies. He knew Titan needed some care after the skirmish, especially with a wound from the trafficker's weapons still fresh. "Let's take care of you first," Tom said, turning to Titan, who had been observing him patiently. He approached the gorilla carefully, knowing that even the gentlest touch could startle such a massive creature. "I promise this will help." With deft hands, Tom began to clean the wound, his heart aching at the sight of Titan's injuries. The gorilla winced slightly but remained still, allowing Tom to work. "You're tougher than anyone I know," Tom said, trying to reassure Titan as he bandaged the wound. "We'll get through this together." As he finished, Tom felt a renewed sense of hope. They were alive, they had each other, and they had the means to survive. "Now, let's see what else we can find," he said, rising to his feet and moving deeper into the ruins. They stumbled upon a central hall, its grand archways partially collapsed, yet still standing as a reminder of the grandeur that once was. Dust motes danced in the filtered sunlight streaming through the broken windows, creating an ethereal atmosphere. It was here that Tom felt the weight of the past most acutely. He imagined the gatherings, the discussions of diplomacy, and the forging of alliances that had once taken place within these walls. "Maybe there are still some records or maps we can use," he mused, approaching a large, toppled desk covered in dust and debris. As he began to sift through the papers scattered across the floor, his heart raced with excitement. Among the documents, he found old maps of Zorth, detailing areas that had once been safe havens, places where the Coalition had established outposts. "Look at this, Titan," he said, holding up a map with marked locations. "There are a few places we could reach that are off the main paths. If we can get there, we might be able to avoid the traffickers and find somewhere we can truly be safe." Titan leaned closer, its golden eyes scanning the map as Tom traced the routes with his finger. "We could head toward the northern plateau," Tom suggested, noting a symbol that indicated a water source nearby. "If we can reach it, we can rest and regroup." With a plan forming in his mind, Tom carefully rolled up the map and tucked it away. "Let's move before anyone finds us here," he urged, and Titan nodded, a silent agreement passing between them. As they exited the ruins, Tom felt a surge of hope mixed with caution. They had a direction now, a purpose. But the reality of their situation still weighed heavily on his shoulders. The traffickers would not give up easily, and their pursuit would be relentless. "Stick to the shadows," Tom instructed as they moved through the landscape, keeping low and using the terrain to their advantage. Titan followed closely, its massive form surprisingly stealthy as they made their way toward the northern plateau. As they journeyed, Tom reflected on the bond they had forged. They were unlikely allies, a human soldier and a legendary creature, but together they had become a formidable team. Tom had always believed in the strength of humanity, but Titan had shown him a different kind of strength, one rooted in resilience, survival, and loyalty. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and the terrain became increasingly rugged. As they navigated the rocky paths, Tom took note of the signs of life around them. Despite the harsh conditions, small plants and flowers pushed through the cracks in the rocks, resilient and determined to thrive against the odds. "Just like us," Tom said quietly, a smile creeping onto his face. "We'll find a way to thrive too." After several hours of travel, they'd finally reached the base of the northern plateau. The landscape opened up, revealing a sweeping view of the valley below, dotted with patches of greenery and the remnants of ancient structures. In the distance, Tom could see what appeared to be a natural spring, the glint of water shimmering under the midday sun. But Tom had a trick up his sleeve. Time to use the environment, he thought. He quickly scanned the area for more loose rocks and debris, spotting a few large boulders that could be used to their advantage. "Titan, keep them distracted," he called out, rushing to gather the stones. With Titan engaged in combat, the traffickers were focused on the gorilla, their attention divided. Tom seized the opportunity to roll several boulders toward the edge of the cliff. The rocks tumbled down, creating an obstacle that further impeded the traffickers' progress. "Let's see how they handle this," Tom shouted, grinning as he watched the chaos unfold. The rocks landed with a resounding crash, scattering dust and debris into the air. The traffickers cursed, stumbling back as they struggled to navigate the treacherous terrain. Titan rode once more, using the moment of confusion to its advantage. The gorilla charged forward again, targeting the traffickers with relentless precision. Tom felt a surge of pride as he witnessed the creature reclaim its power, the fierce warrior spirit shining through the pain of abandonment. "Keep pushing," Tom urged, his voice filled with encouragement. "We're almost there." They were fighting not just for survival, but for dignity, for the right to exist without fear. Each blow struck against the traffickers was a testament to their resilience, a declaration that they would not be silenced or captured. The battle raged on, the canyon filled with the sounds of combat, gunfire, roars, and the shouts of desperate men trying to assert their dominance. Tom continued to fire, his aim steady as he picked off traffickers one by one, determined to protect Titan and ensure their escape. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new threat emerged. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, an imposing man with a scarred face and cold, calculating eyes. "You think you can escape that easily?" he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "I'll make sure you regret this, beast." Tom recognized him instantly as the leader of the traffickers, the one orchestrating their attack. "We'll see about that," Tom replied defiantly, his voice unwavering despite the fear clawing at his gut. With a wave of his hand, the leader commanded his men to regroup. "Fall back. We need to surround them." The traffickers hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to retreat or press forward. Tom knew this was their chance. "Titan, we can't let them regroup," he shouted, determination flaring within him. "We need to end this now." The gorilla nodded, its fierce spirit ignited by Tom's words. Together, they charged down from their perch, ready to confront the remaining traffickers head-on. As they reached the bottom of the canyon, Tom and Titan found themselves in a flurry of chaos. The traffickers were trying to form a defensive line, but they were panicking under the relentless assault of the gorilla. Tom fired his weapon, strategically aiming to keep them off balance, while Titan moved with a fluidity that belied its massive size. "Push them back," Tom shouted, adrenaline surging as he fought alongside Titan. The enemy was beginning to crumble under the pressure, their confidence faltering as they faced the combined strength of man and beast. But the leader was relentless. He barked orders, trying to rally his men even as they stumbled backward. "Focus fire on the gorilla. We can't let it escape," he shouted, his voice filled with desperation. The traffickers shifted their aim, but Tom quickly took advantage of their momentary distraction. "Now, Titan," he yelled, and the gorilla surged forward with all its might. It barreled into the group, sending men flying and causing chaos to erupt around them. Tom fired at the closest trafficker, his aim steady as he fought to ensure Titan's safety. The fight raged on, the cacophony of noise echoing through the canyon. Tom felt a sense of exhilaration as they pushed the traffickers back, their resolve unwavering in the face of danger. With each passing moment, they drew closer to victory. But just when it seemed like they might win, the leader pulled out a weapon that glimmered menacingly in the dim light. "Enough of this," he shouted, pointing it at Titan. "I'll take you down myself." Tom's heart raced as he realized the threat. "Titan, watch out," he shouted, but it was too late. The leader fired, the weapon letting out a deafening blast that echoed through the canyon. Time seemed to slow as Tom watched, his heart in his throat. Titan rolled in pain, staggering backward as the shot connected. Tom felt a surge of horror wash over him. "No," he cried, racing forward despite the danger. But Titan was not finished yet. The gorilla regained its footing, defiance etched across its face. With a primal roar, Titan charged at the leader, a living embodiment of fury and resilience. "Get him, Titan," Tom urged, his heart racing. The tension in the air crackled with anticipation as the two forces collided once more. Titan lunged, its powerful limbs striking with precision as it tackled the leader to the ground, forcing the weapon from his grasp. The traffickers were beginning to break, their ranks faltering as they witnessed the ferocity of Titan's spirit. They scrambled to regroup, fear evident in their eyes. "Fall back." One of them shouted, panic rising in his voice. "We need to get out of here." With a final push, Tom and Titan surged forward, forcing the remaining traffickers to retreat. The leader struggled beneath Titan, but the gorilla's strength was overwhelming. Tom could see the fear etched on the man's face as Titan loomed above him, a warrior determined to protect what was rightfully its own. "Let this be a lesson," Tom said, his voice steady. "You'll never take what isn't yours. You've underestimated us, and now you'll pay the price." With one last powerful blow, Titan sent the leader sprawling to the ground, and the remaining traffickers fled into the shadows, fear propelling them away from the powerful duo. Tom breathed a sigh of relief, the adrenaline slowly ebbing from his veins as the chaos began to settle. As the last echoes of the battle faded, Tom looked at Titan, who stood proudly, chest heaving with exertion. "We did it, buddy," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "We fought back." The gorilla let out a low rumble, a sound that resonated with victory. Tom stepped forward, placing a hand on Titan's massive arm. "You're more than just a beast. You're a warrior." In that moment, Tom realized that their battle was not just against the traffickers. It was a fight for dignity, for the right to live freely, and for the bonds forged through shared struggles. Together, they had proven that strength could rise from adversity, and that even the most forsaken beings could reclaim their power. But their journey was far from over. Tom knew they had to find a safe place for Titan to recover, a sanctuary away from the horrors of the past. "Let's get you to safety," he said, determination etched on his face. "We've only just begun." With renewed purpose, Tom and Titan made their way out of the canyon, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were no longer just a soldier and a beast. They were allies in a fight for survival, a bond forged in the fires of adversity, and together, they would face the future head-on. The journey to sanctuary. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the rocky landscape of Zorth, Tom Reed and Titan stood at the mouth of the canyon, their hearts still racing from the intense battle they had just endured. The world around them was quiet, but Tom knew that peace would be short-lived. The traffickers would not be far behind, and they had to move quickly to find a safe haven for Titan. "Come on, Titan," Tom urged, glancing back toward the canyon's depths, where the echoes of conflict still lingered in the air. "We need to find somewhere safe." The gorilla nodded, its powerful form moving gracefully as it followed Tom, the bond between them stronger than ever. They trekked through the rocky terrain, navigating the jagged outcroppings that had once served as their battleground. Tom's mind raced with thoughts of their next steps. He had seen firsthand the lengths to which the traffickers would go to capture Titan, and he knew they would be back with reinforcements. It was only a matter of time before they regrouped and mounted another attack. "We need to get you out of here," Tom said, glancing up at the massive creature beside him. "I won't let them take you again." Titan let out a low rumble, a sound that conveyed both strength and understanding. They were in this together, and Tom felt a surge of determination to protect his friend. After an hour of traveling through the rugged landscape, they reached a rocky outcropping that provided a vantage point over the valley below. Tom climbed to the top, looking out across the desolate land. In the distance, he could see the remnants of old coalition structures, crumbling and abandoned, overgrown with vegetation. "Maybe we can find shelter in one of those ruins," he suggested, pointing toward the ruins. "They might have some supplies, and it could serve as a good hiding spot." Titan watched him closely, as if weighing the options. They made their way down the outcropping and headed toward the ruins. As they approached, the remnants of what once was a bustling outpost became clearer. The buildings, though dilapidated, still held a sense of history, memories etched into the stone walls. Tom couldn't help but feel a mix of nostalgia and sadness. This place had once been a symbol of unity among species, a gathering point for the Galactic Coalition, and now it lay in ruins, a testament to the wars that had ravaged the galaxy. "There it is," he exclaimed, pointing toward the water source. "We're almost there," Titan responded with a low rumble, its expression shifting from determination to eagerness. Tom could sense the gorilla's longing for respite, a place where it could finally rest and recover. As they approached the spring, Tom felt a rush of excitement and relief. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and he knelt down, cupping his hands to take a sip. "We made it, Titan," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We're safer now." The gorilla approached the water's edge, its massive frame casting a shadow over the spring. Titan leaned down, drinking deeply, and Tom watched in awe at the sheer power and grace of the creature. In this moment, they were not just a soldier and a beast. They were companions, survivors finding solace in the shared struggle for freedom. After they quenched their thirst, Tom took a moment to assess their surroundings. The plateau offered a clear view of the valley, and he knew it would be easier to spot any incoming threats. "We should set up a temporary camp," he said, scanning for a suitable spot. "We need to rest and gather our strength before deciding our next move." He found a sheltered area beneath a large overhang, a natural alcove that provided protection from the elements. "This will work," he said, leading Titan to the spot. "We can rest here for a while." Tom began to gather materials for a fire, carefully selecting dry twigs and branches. As he worked, he felt a sense of normalcy returning, a welcome respite from the chaos they had just escaped. They needed to regroup, to think about their next steps. Once the fire was crackling and warmth enveloped them, Tom took a seat beside Titan, who sat close, its massive frame providing a comforting presence. "We'll need to figure out our long-term plan," Tom said, staring into the flames. "We can't stay here forever. The traffickers will eventually catch up." Titan let out a soft rumble, as if in agreement. Tom thought about the map they had found, the marked locations of abandoned coalition outposts. "Maybe we can check out some of those old sites," he suggested, his mind racing with possibilities. "If there are any supplies left, we might be able to fortify our position or find a vehicle to escape." Titan seemed to ponder the idea, its golden eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. Tom felt a surge of gratitude for the creature beside him. Together, they had faced unimaginable challenges, and yet they had come through stronger. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the plateau, Tom felt a sense of peace wash over him. They had fought hard to get to this point, and while the future remained uncertain, they were alive. And for now, that was enough. "I know it won't be easy," he said softly, looking up at the stars beginning to twinkle in the twilight sky. "But I promise you, Titan, I will do everything in my power to keep you safe." The gorilla responded with a gentle nudge, its massive head brushing against Tom's shoulder. In that moment, Tom understood that they were no longer just allies in survival. They were family. Together, they would navigate the challenges ahead, united by their shared experiences and the unbreakable bond they had forged through adversity. As the fire crackled and the stars emerged overhead, Tom closed his eyes for a moment, allowing himself to bask in the warmth and comfort of their newfound sanctuary. They had made it this far, and now together, they would continue their journey toward freedom and safety.